Përshëndetje të dashur teleshikues. Rikthehemi sot në një tjetër episod të Koha Për Të Folur dhe me ne sot është një mik shumë I veçantë, our special guest, Pastor Zack Lucas.
Hello, hello.
It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Really excited to be here and to meet you and to meet the rest of the people as well.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate that you came from a long way to be with us here at this conference.
Yeah, 2.5 hours, not very long, but you're very welcome. Very
But
privileged.
the plane, the jet lag, though.
Yeah, okay, fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point, yeah. But you guys have taken care of us so nicely since we've gotten here that, that's a distant memory for us.
Can you tell us more about yourself, Pastor?
Yeah, what do you know? I mean, I've got so much I can say, but I've got a beautiful wife at home who is actually originally from South Africa, but we live together in the UK, and we have
That's
done for
lovely.
10 years. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary as well.
That's
so
amazing.
We feel like it's a milestone, but also now we're meeting people that have been married for 25, 35 years. So we now think, okay, maybe it's a milestone, but there's so much more to go. But we still like each other, so that's a really good thing. We've got 2 kids. I've got a 6-year-old daughter who is full of attitude, full of sass.
Energy.
She's kind of a diva, I think, actually. So she's, likes to speak in that way. And then I've got a 2-year-old boy, and he's full of energy. So he's the one that just runs around. He's a bit of a, I don't know how the word translates, but he's a bit of a brute, which means he just runs through things and runs into things. So, so the family life is very full, very busy. But yeah, a little bit about me.
So I have my younger sister as well, and I call her a diva.
Okay.
So she's growing up now, but she's so full of energy, and she's such a sweet soul, but full of energy. And she comes running around and calling me and screaming for my name. She's the cutest thing ever, but full of energy.
Yeah.
And I see my mom and dad, and I say, yeah, you guys get tired.
Yeah,
you guys get tired.
Yeah, it sounds like she'd be good friends with Ava. I think they would get along
Yes, I think they would, to be honest. First question, in fact, I would like to ask you is, I think all the Albanians watching, they want to know, how do you like Albania so far?
Well, what's not to like? I mean, we're here, we're on the coast. I'm originally from California as well, so anything where there's the ocean involved, or I can see the ocean or see the water. There's an amazing pool here as well that we've got access to. So I'm loving that. I'm loving the people. People like yourself as well, been so welcoming, so warm.
Thank you so much.
There's lots of affection, and I really like that. You meet somebody for the first time, and you do a little bit of a handshake, but then it always gets pulled into a hug. Which it's just really great, and just great people that I'm finding also have and bring that same affection to their relationship with Christ as well. So it's great to be around people like that, and I just feel like I just haven't stopped eating since I got here as well. So yeah, really like Albania.
That's our Albanian thing.
Yes, yeah, very
if
hospitable.
people come, we'll feed them all the time.
Yes.
And we get them from our great-grandmothers.
Is that it?
And a grandmother, yeah.
All right, so they're the ones to blame.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
And they tell us that we should lose weight, and then when we lose weight, they say, you've lost too much weight, so we're going to feed you.
Yes.
And so they feed us again until we've gained weight, and then they say, you lose weight. And that cycle just never ends.
Yeah, that's why you just need stretchy pants, right? Elastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or baggy pants.
Yeah. Just grow with it. You just grow with it.
I want to touch a little bit on the topic you talked about today.
Yeah.
Called for more joy.
Yes. Yeah.
When I think about youth, the first thing that comes to mind is freedom, joy, full of life.
Yeah.
But many young people seem to believe and think that I don't want to follow Christ because in Christ, I'm going to go to church. Who can stay a 2-hour or 5-hour sermon in church? Mm-hmm. I just want to go out, hang out. There's not much joy in church. Can you tell us that there is joy in the church for the young people that are watching?
There is joy in the church, so I'll tell you that. Yeah. And whoever's doing a 5-hour sermon as well, hats off to them, because that is a long time. That is a long time to be preaching. But yeah, no, look, I get it. I think from the outside, it can be really easy to look into church and think it's another thing I have to do. It's another thing I have to show up to. It takes time away from other things that I might want to do. But for me, and I didn't grow up as a Christian. I grew up as in a household where my father was Jewish and my mother was what we would call non-practicing Christian.
Okay.
And they decided to raise us in the Jewish faith. And actually part of my story, going through the years, I was raised Jewish, so I had a bar mitzvah, I had all the confirmation of, being a Jewish boy.
The traditional things as well, aspect of it.
Exactly. And that was actually what led me to seeking for more, because as I would go to temple or synagogue and sit in the services, we would do the same service over and over and over and over. Kind of like what you're talking about, the perception might be of coming to Christ or coming to a church service. And it actually led me to the point where I thought this can't be it. I knew that God existed. I knew that he existed. But I just thought this can't be it. And over time, coming to being invited to certain church services, girlfriends would bring me to a youth group, and I would experience God, but I would also experience God with joy.
Yeah,
and
that's
actually,
right.
what happened and what really brought me in there was the fact of, oh my gosh, I can have this.
Both. I can have both.
I can have this relationship with God, and I can have joy. And people can smile, and people can laugh. And I think maybe predisposed, I'm a little bit more naturally inclined to be joyful and to have a little bit more fun and not so much worried about the details of things. And there's a risk, because I think as you get older and more responsibility comes, that those things take priority over joy,
right.
And they can really kind of suppress the joy. But what I'm finding now, especially recently, and even after the talk this morning, is that joy is so necessary for life, and you just can't do without it. You can't do without it. So yes, joy exists in church. The Bible even talks about holiness together in combination with joy as well. So the two coexist, and they just work so nicely together. So if there's anybody watching this that is thinking that doesn't happen, come to this conference or come to church, and we'll show you very much different.
I agree with you so much on that. I hear many young people who say that, I think personally, once you meet God, you meet joy.
Yeah,
and
that's really good.
Our God is so joyful, and he has humor.
Yes,
our God
he does.
has the sense of humor. And sometimes he has woken me up at night and told me something so serious but so funny that I had to physically laugh. And I was half asleep. And I say, my God has humor. And I think that when you know God and when you just start spending time with him, you get to know the aspect of, I can have both of this.
Yeah.
And when there is God's presence, there's always joy and always peace and always love that comes with it.
Yeah.
People tend to mix up, they think joy as of, I'm going to this club, I'm going to this party, and that's what they think of joy. There is another aspect of joy when you're with God. Yeah. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I feel like you should just keep going, because you're preaching so well here. I think you've got it. But you said something. You said in the presence of God, and this is what it says in the Psalms. In the presence of God is fullness of joy. And you talk about these moments of maybe being at a club or being at a party or doing things like that. And this is emotional, temporary joy that fills a gap. But there's always a time after that where it's not sustained. It's just a feeling of temporary happiness.
True.
But actually the joy that we're talking about, the joy that we know from God that only comes from his God, exactly, it's sustaining and it's powerful. And actually being in that space, that's the only thing that actually allows us to continue on this journey that we call faith, this journey that we call life as well. So it's the sustaining power of God. And I'm coming to know that even more and more and more. I'm not the expert on joy, but I'd like to get to the point where I'm knowing more and I'm actually, infusing that more into my life to see where God can take us.
My happiest day of the week is our church days.
Okay.
Because I feel so happy going to church. I feel so joyful. I know I'll meet people. I'll go and have a meeting with my Lord. And I feel so happy when I go to church. And I remember one time I had this, I just had finished a big concert and we had an after party. But there were big names coming to the after party. And everyone was so excited to go. And okay, we're going to have fun. It's going to be a nice experience. And I just want to break that people think that the world has joy and has beautiful moments. And I'm not saying that some things are not beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when I went and I saw the situation, I just said to myself, do they consider this joy? Because I've known real joy, and this isn't joy. This isn't fun.
Yeah.
I have more fun going to church than what you guys doing here.
Yeah.
And so I think young people, they need to know that there's a certain aspect of joy, and as you said earlier, that you only get with God, and nothing can ever fill that.
Yeah.
And they go around searching for things that will fill that.
Yep.
And they feel so empty afterwards. Like, why am I feeling empty? Even you that we have at church, so why am I feeling empty? Because you're searching for the wrong thing in the wrong place.
Yeah, exactly.
You should search for the right thing in the right place.
Yeah. Well, look, it's an imposter of real joy, right? It's a fake of real joy is what they're looking for. And like we said before, it leaves you dry afterwards. So if you're thirsty, you come to the well.
True.
You're thirsty, come to the well, and that's where real joy is found. So completely agree.
I have to ask you, Pastor, do you have a moment in your life when the joy of God just hit you so hard you had to start crying or laughing, or
wow,
you felt it so powerful that your body physically couldn't handle it?
So actually, I've actually not experienced that myself. My wife actually did the other day. We came home from my when I take the kids to school, and I came home and I found my wife in the living room. She had her headphones on, listening to worship music, and she was just out there, just kind of like crying. I didn't know, was she okay? And so
should I intervene?
Yeah,
should I not?
Exactly. But no, it was really great to see her experience that as well, because she, I guess, out of the two of us, she's probably the more serious of the two of us. So to see God can actually invade somebody like that with His joy, and to see how that's transformed her since is amazing. I think maybe to kind of answer your question, I use it because I think joy is like I was talking about this morning, joy is a choice. So
True.
Joy is something that we can actually choose, and even right now, if we wanted to, we can tap into joy, because we're in the presence of God constantly. So we can always get ourselves to a point and a consciousness of His grace and a consciousness of the joy that He brings. So actually sometimes what I have to do, instead of waiting for that moment to be so filled with that, is I actually get myself to laugh. I know that sounds really weird, right? But sometimes I actually sit there and I just say, ha, ha, ha. You've got to just say that and
Pastor,
do
I do
that.
the same thing.
Do you?
I
Okay,
do.
all right.
I do the same thing.
We're in good company then.
I
We're
get
in
the
good
same
company.
thing.
And sometimes you just have to do something in the natural to then allow that
Make it work in the
spiritual
supernatural.
Exactly that. So, yeah.
I had one moment, which I'll never forget. I was at youth camp, and I just burst out laughing like never before. But that continued on for 3 hours.
Wow.
I was just laughing hysterically. And I'm a person, I laugh really hardly, and I laugh ugly. So teeth out, face squished, everything. And I just was laughing for 3 hours straight.
Wow.
And I went to my dad and I said, I can't stop this. And he's like, don't try to stop it. You won't stop it. It can't be stopped. I've never felt that much happiness and joy and fulfillment in my life ever. And my dad is a very serious person.
Okay. Yeah, I've met him.
But he practices joy regularly.
Good.
And I see him and he's laughing. I got to the point I don't ask him anymore. Like, I know he's laughing. Okay, there's something. And one time we were in the car and he said I was sick with something. And I said, I have to pray about this. No medicine. I don't need any medicine. And he started laughing. And I said, you know what? We laugh together. And joy heals.
Yes.
Something else that,
absolutely.
Joy heals.
Joy, I mean, again, something we were talking about this morning is that freedom that joy brings as well. You say joy heals, and it's those chains of sickness that actually fall off when you step into joy. It's if somebody is struggling with depression, right? Joy is the medicine to that.
True.
Joy is the freedom that will break them free from the depression. Joy is the freedom that will break people free from anxiety. Joy is the freedom that will break people free from, suicidal thoughts. And there's so much of that in the UK specifically right now. Mental health amongst young people, amongst youth, the stress and the anxiety of life and where they think that they need to be. And I think you see joy dwindling and you see the rise of mental health concerns, right? So we need to rebalance. We need to counterbalance that. And we counterbalance it with joy.
How can we, what you said about that, how can we as young people work on that, try to work on that?
Oh, wow.
To be more joyful?
So look, I say this hearing from a lot of people. I'm not an expert in Albania. It's my first time in Albania. But just knowing the type of people that I've met so far, hearing some of them talk about it, in the evenings after the services that we've had, hearing them play games together, there seems to be like a natural joy that already exists. And so I think similar to the advice that your dad gave you about don't try and suppress it or stop the joy. I think there's a bit of a release that people need to have. They need to give themselves a bit of space to actually not carry so much of the burden and know and trust that God is actually the one that's in control. And when you can, relieve yourself of that pressure, relieve yourself of that burden, it gives you that space to actually just let go a bit of that control, kind of shake things off a little bit and allow that joy to really just bubble up. Allow that joy to, focus on those things, like the goodness of God, the grace of God in your life, the mercy of God. And the Bible says that His goodness and His mercy are everlasting. Right?
So true.
They're steadfast.
Amen.
He's faithful. And focusing on those things will allow and enable that joy just to bubble up. But focusing on, okay, I've got to do my exams today, or I've got to get work done, or I've got to make sure that the kids eat. I've got to, that stuff is all the stuff that just, obviously we have to make sure it happens, right? But there's a place and there's a space for that, and it should never overtake that space for joy.
Can you give us any advice? I know some serious young people, like so serious.
I know some too.
Serious to the point of and I appreciate that. Like, good for you. That's your thing. Yeah. Everyone has this different thing, their different way of doing stuff. But they have it the most hard to let things go. Yeah. And I see them in sermons and in meetings. They're shaking, they're doing everything they possibly can to keep themselves from not letting it go. Because the moment it lets go, no one can tame them. Yeah. So do you have any specific advice of someone that is very serious?
These are really good questions, These are really good questions. I think, so I mentioned earlier, I feel quite predisposed or naturally leaning towards joy. I think there's also other people that maybe lean the other way, these serious young people that you're talking about. And I think just get around it. Get around people that are really joyful. Get yourself around people that naturally lean that way, because there's something contagious about joy. When you sit around people that are joyful, sometimes you can't just help but actually become joyful. So that joy kind of rubs off. And there's a guy on our team that's come here named Ben. You know Ben.
Yeah, Ben is amazing.
He is incredible. And he doesn't even need to say anything or do anything. You just kind of look at him and he just exudes joy. Joy just kind of like comes off of him. And so as soon as you get around him, you feel a little bit lighter. You feel a bit, more free. You feel a little bit like, oh, actually, things maybe aren't so bad. And then you can start to really get yourself into that space of joy. And I guess the other advice is don't worry about what it looks like. Okay. Because you might be an extrovert and joy might look like singing and dancing. You might be an introvert and joy might look like you sitting there in contentment and smiling on your face because God is in control. And that's what joy might look like. But put it into practice, however you need to do it. Joy is not something that we should wait for to happen to us. Yeah. It's something that we should do and something that we should practice, like you say your dad does, something that we should practice so that it becomes a normal habit, just like we would practice anything else.
So true. How does our relationship with God affect our joy?
It just boosts it, I think. Like the more you get around Him, the more joyful you become, the more you get around Him, the more things you have to be grateful for. The deeper you go in your relationship with Him, the more love you get to experience, which then ultimately translates into joy. So the more you spend time with God, the deeper you go with Him, the greater your intimacy becomes and the greater your joy becomes overall.
I think gratitude is very important because when you stay with God, you think like, oh, I have so many good things. Having God is a privilege. Yes. Being able to worship Him, to praise Him, to actually minister, it's such a privilege. Oh, yeah. And when you know that and when you're grateful for that, other things, like, I don't have to worry about this. I should be joyful. I have something that other people don't have. Yeah, exactly that. And we have access to a joy that other people don't have. Yeah. And I think mainly as youth, what we can do is just reflect God in things that we do and be joyful. Yep. And that's how we get people in. Because people, they want to see something that they don't have in you. What don't I have that He has that I can get from Him? Yes, How does He have that? Yeah. What does He do differently than me? Oh, He goes to church. Okay, let's go to His church. Yeah. Let's see what happens at His church. And I don't want to see young people greeting people like, hello. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, that's the church I want to go to. Yeah, exactly.
So my voice is gone. but I really scream loudly.
Yeah.
So my whole childhood, my parents told me, you should quiet down. So hi, how are you? How have you been?
Yeah.
And I think we just should be more open. And if I can use a word that our teenagers use, more chill about it.
Yeah, more chill. Yeah, I like that. But that, I mean, look, you greeted me like that when we first met. So you're telling the truth. So, and I get it. But
that was toned down though.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Later you have to do like the full version just so I can get that experience.
I'll do the full version.
Yeah. But you said something really interesting, and there's a story in Luke chapter 10, and it's about when Jesus sends out the 70 disciples, and he sends them out to go heal, to go cast out demons, and they come back to Jesus, and the Bible says that they're rejoicing, coming back to Jesus, saying, Jesus, you'll never believe it. Demons are subject to us in your name, and we saw people healed, and they're just really joyful. But Jesus then goes back and he says, look, I know I've given you authority to trample on serpents. I've given you authority to cast out demons. But remember to rejoice in the fact that your names are written in heaven. And he brings it back. So yes, the works are great. Yes, what you can do and what God's going to do through you is amazing. But Jesus says very clearly, don't rejoice in those things, but rather rejoice in the fact that your name is written in heaven. So we have our salvation is the source of our joy. And later in that same passage, he says, to the point you made earlier, he says, kings and prophets before you wanted to see and hear the things that you do. And so we have such a privilege as people of God, as temples of the Holy Spirit, to live in the age that we do, to experience the relationship that we do with God, with Jesus, because there were kings and there were prophets before us that wanted to, that were desperate to see and to hear the things that we get to see and hear now.
So true.
They never got to, but we do. And if you can't rejoice at that, I don't know what else there is to joy in. So it just that gratitude, there's definitely a link between the gratitude and the joy and those coming together and being able to really express what that looks like and what that means. But I think you touched on a really great point there.
The world looks like, it presents itself like a very glorious place. Like, oh my God, we have so much fun, we do this and we do that. And then when you actually go in it, you see it's so empty and it's so dark and there's nothing good about it. And then you come out so grateful that I have God in my life. I can do this, I can do that. Oh my God, no sickness can beat me. And when you come out like that, you think, joy. I'm happy that I'm here. I'm happy that I do these things. So thank you, Pastor, for what you shared.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
I really appreciate it that you came all this way to minister to us here.
It's my pleasure.
And it was a blessing to have you here and an honor to have you here as well. Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me questions and sharing as well what you have as well. I think there's just some really great stuff God's doing in Albania. And I'm just really glad to play the tiniest part in contributing to that, but expecting God to do amazing things here through people like yourself and through churches as well.
But when people come here, the fact that you've made an effort to come here, it really leaves an impact on Albanian people. So we're like so happy, we'll never forget it.
Amazing.
That's the type of people we are. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate the time that you've given us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Shpresoj shumë që ta keni pëlqyer këtë episod dhe do t'ju inkurajoja që të kaloni një javë sa më të mirë, në fakt dhe një javë sa më të gëzueshme. Le të gëzohemi të gjithë në Perëndin këtë javë edhe të shkojmë nëpër kishat tona, të kërcejmë edhe të këndojmë, ta lavdrojmë Zotin me gjithë zemrën tonë, sepse ka gëzim prezencën e Tij. Uroj që të keni një javë sa më të mirë dhe ne shihemi javës tjetër. Pafshim.